I'll start off by introducing myself. As you may have heard, my name is Mark Flanagan. I am from Ireland originally, but I have travelled the globe, literally from Ireland to the UK, to Australia, to Canada, and back to the UK again. Who knows, someday I may get to visit Ireland one more time. I will apologise in advance if my internet is a little bit flaky because I've just moved house to Camden and haven't got decent broadband yet, but I will be getting decent broadband hopefully in the next week or two. So I'm working on mobile broadband at the moment. It may cause some issues. If it does, please bear with me. Please bear with me. So today we're going to be talking about Unreal Engine for next generation gaming. I'm going to share my presentation with you because we all love a bit of a PowerPoint. So let me just go and share my screen. And I'll be sharing this. We're going to go a little bit Inception to start with. And then I'm going to go to my PowerPoint, which is over here. Okay. So hopefully we can all see that. I'm going to start with this presentation with a video, which some of you will have seen before. If you haven't, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under. So this is looking at Unreal Engine 5, which is coming soon. We'll have a release, which is a pre-release version, coming first half of this year, so that you can get your hands on it and start preparing for the final release. Now, this is bringing an awful lot of features which game developers have been asking for a while. You'll basically be able to blow out your polygon budget beyond what anybody thought would be possible. You'll be able to get really good interactive global illumination, and these things work together intrinsically. But apart from that, we've got lots more things. We're integrating Niagara into Unreal Engine 5. It's already in Unreal Engine 4.26. We have flocking behaviors. We have improved animation. We have improved audio with convolution reverb, which basically gives you the equivalent of 3D scanning for audio. And all these things are available not just in limited environments, but in open world situations as well, as we can see in our wonderful demo here. But do you have to wait for Unreal Engine 5? The answer is no. A lot of these features and a lot of very cool technology is already being implemented in Unreal Engine 4.26. And that's what we're going to look at mostly today, because this video has done the rounds and has been exciting people for a long time. But I want to encourage everybody to get their hands on Unreal Engine 4.26 and start using the features that are already there. There are phenomenal features which game developers have been crying out for a long time. And also, remember, 4.26 is going to be a version of Unreal which will be around for a while. Certainly Unreal Engine 4 will be around for a while. There won't be games released on Unreal Engine 5 for quite some time. So when you graduate, you'll probably be working on a version of Unreal Engine which is in the 4 series. And there will be games released with this probably for the next 2 years at least. There are a huge amount of advancements in 4.26 which you can download today and get your hands on and play with. These are things like the hair and fur, volumetric clouds, environment lighting, experimental water systems. We have a lot of features which we refer to as experimental. They do work, but we just advise people to take care if you're going to implement them in a final game project. We have other features as well, which include things like the movie render queue and collaborative viewer and animation blending. Now, some of these are not necessarily going to be as used in the games industry, but as you probably are aware, Unreal Engine is not just for games anymore. Unreal Engine is for games, it's for film, it's for automotive, it's for architecture. The skills you've learned as game developers can be transferred to these, and indeed you'll find a lot of people recruiting across all kinds of industries for people who can do interactive and game development type tasks. So the hair system, which we have here demoed in our Meerkat video, which was made by Weta Digital. Yes, the same people who worked on the Lord of the Rings, Hobbits, and Avatar films. This is production ready and is there for you to download today. You can have a look at the video. You can have a look behind the scenes. We had a feature from some of the artists at Weta last week explaining how they actually implemented this. And as with many of our features, what you can also do is you can download the scene files. So for this particular demonstration, which works in real time, you can download the Maya files, and the I think it was Yeti was used for the groom. So you can actually see how everything was made. Wherever possible, where we can do this, where we've actually done internal work, we share the scene files with you so you can actually get your hands on them and reverse engineer them to an extent. Some people have even gone so far these days as using the Meerkat as their avatar, and they've hooked up the facial motion capture, which you can use an iDevice, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone, and you can use it for transferring the facial motion capture onto a Meerkat and have it as your Zoom persona, which some of my colleagues have done, and it's hilarious. It's good fun. The next thing which I want to mention in Unreal Engine 4.26, which is incredibly compelling, is the sky, cloud, and environment rendering. These are absolutely world-leading features in terms of volumetric clouds and in terms of having the sun and the environment behave in the way in which it actually would in the real world, or in a real world, because you can actually set different atmospheres for different planets. And we have a video from our own Short de Young, which I would highly recommend to people to have a look at, which shows going from the level of blades of grass up to seeing the planet from outside with the same environment being used for it, the same settings being used. So it is incredibly scalable, and you can actually go from these levels of the macro to the micro. And again, you can go between planets and explore different areas. This is something which is incredibly useful for small game developers. You need to actually develop the thing once. Once you've got it working, you can then change your weather systems, you can change your clouds, you can do all these kind of things, and it actually makes your life easier. This is a theme which you'll find with an awful lot of what we've been doing, is we're trying to make it easier for game developers to create content which is or has been the domain of large game developers before. Now everybody can have access to these. Another thing just to remember when you're looking at these features in Unreal Engine 4.26, these are the same, it's the same engine that you're getting your hands on that Fortnite has been made with. So we use it internally before we let other people use it. The reason being, we want to make sure it works. We're not keeping everything for ourselves. We're sharing things as soon as it's possible to do so. Another feature which people have been asking for a long time is realistic water. And we've had some very, very clever people in our rendering teams working with this, also our physics teams. So we can have lakes and oceans and rivers and islands using splines, which are very easy and quick to set up. We don't have to do a huge amount of coding at the back end of this. The fluid responds to the terrain, so we can reflect ripples, and we can actually have boats floating in these fluids as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. For some of you who may have been playing some of our games, you may have seen we've had a couple of times where we've actually used the this system, the ocean, lakes, rivers, water system, to actually change the gameplay in some of our games recently. And it, again, water can be a great gameplay element. It's something which I recommend download and start using today. The movie render queue, for those of you who are interested in doing the kind of workflows which have been seen in virtual production. Now, for those of you who saw the first series, The Mandalorian, you'll know that virtual production is using Unreal technologies for LED screens on set, so you can actually use your skills that you've learned in game developers to work in the movie industry. I've worked in architecture, I've worked in movies, I've worked for Industrial Light and Magic, for instance, and I've worked obviously in games and education. So now you can output different render passes, as we call them, and we can composite and we can create renders directly from Unreal in a way which is useful for film pipelines. So you may think, will I ever want to work in film? Well, a lot of people do. You have a choice now. You have that choice, and it's really, really useful to be able to do it. Animation in Sequencer. It's possible to create animations by blending animation clips in Sequencer now. For those of you who aren't familiar with the animation systems in Unreal, we have improved them beyond all recognition. We now have control rigs, which allows you to actually have full body IK inside Unreal. You can actually use animation you can use Unreal as an animation tool now, as opposed to just directly exporting from your digital content creation package. You can actually do animation in the tool. But more than that, it's really useful where you just want to tweak some bits and pieces where you have almost exactly what you're looking for to start with, but you just want to tweak it to make sure it works in that final part. End display, again, this is something for virtual production. We have here the Razor Quest with courtesy of Industrial Light and Magic. Awesome vehicle. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the Lego version of it is phenomenal. So we updated this again specifically for virtual production. And a collaborative viewer is something which any of you who are interested in working in the automotive industry, and we just had a big event with, I think it was about 10,000 people attended from the automotive industry globally. We have a large sector of automotive using Unreal, not just for visualization, not just for the fun kind of things, but also for if you're buying yourself a Ferrari and you go into the showroom, they want to be able to show you what your Ferrari will look like. So a lot of the extra costs for a Ferrari are in the different wheel trims and the different types of leather and what kind of extras you want to have added in. So the configurator type usability that you can get with Unreal Engine with pixel streaming and collaborative viewing is one of the things which is really, really important for this. So another aspect of automotive, you'll now find Unreal Engine in the dashboards of quite a lot of vehicles, what we refer to as human-machine interface. So a lot of auto manufacturers are using Unreal to actually power their dashboards, etc. And we have remote control API and presets which are available to allow you to actually drive the Unreal Engine from other interfaces. Chaos has been available in Unreal as a GitHub build for a long time, but it's now integrated into 426. So we've switched over from our physics engine. PhysX is the engine which is actually part of NVIDIA, and we've improved upon that with our own version of Chaos. And Chaos you will have seen the demo a couple of years ago, which is this massive destruction scene. Again, you can download these and you can work with these. The benefits to people working the engine are actually quite large, doubling in some case the amount of assets which you can work with at one time. So the last thing which I'm going to mention here is the digital humans. Now, digital humans is going to become part of Unreal Engine. You may well have seen some videos with this. If you haven't, I'm going to share up the video now. And apologies about the compression here. There's something a little bit flaky going on with my PowerPoint presentation. It's not just the internet, it's my PowerPoint. So MetaHuman will be available in the very near future. We're going to make an announcement of that sometime in I'm not sure, sometime, certainly this quarter. And it's going to be something which you're going to be able to create your own characters. Now, with all of these, and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now, with all of these and with all of the different initiatives which we've actually brought to the forefront in the games industry, what we're trying to do is we're trying to empower all of you as game developers to be able to make great content. We understand that some of you have various different skills, and some of you may be great programmers, some great designers, some are really good at modeling or texturing. What we want to be able to do is let you all experience as much as possible of the game development process without having to rely on huge teams, without having to actually be part of a mega corporation. So you can actually have access to, for instance, metahumans and create characters, even if you're not a great character designer. You can create levels using our Quixel tools, even though you're not a great modeler. You can use our water and you can use other effects, even though you may not be somebody who is a great technical artist and able to design your own techniques for this. Everything is focused on letting you make what you want to make as simply as possible and realize your creative vision. Now, if you are a great modeler or texture, character artist, whatever, this is not taking away from what you can do, but what it is doing is enabling everybody to make great games, which is where we want to actually go with all of these things. So Unreal Engine 5 is on the horizon. It will be with us soon. I can't say when. Nobody can say when. But while we're waiting for that, there's so much other tools to be working with. I don't know all of Unreal Engine. I don't know anybody who does know all of Unreal Engine. If you are really, really wanting to use Unreal Engine 5, the best advice I can give you is to download Unreal Engine 4.26 and get to know as much of that as possible, because the skills you learn will actually be transferable. It's not going to be a huge leap in terms of different interface, different way of working. What it will be is you'll have extra tools added on top of what you have available today. So whereas you may have been working with a workflow where you had to bake your lighting, you won't have to bake lighting. You may have been working with a workflow where you had to take high resolution objects and landscapes and bake them down to lower resolution and have normal maps and have other techniques like that, which were time consuming. You won't need to do that so much. What we're trying to do is make it an easy transition for you. Somebody's watching MetaHuman there. Okay, so next generation of gaming is going to be your generation of gaming. It's going to be the generation which you're working in. It's expanding from not just gaming into every corner of the creative field. And it's heading towards the goal, which Tim Sweeney has spoken about several times, certainly at SIGGRAPH 2019, which we're heading towards the metaverse. And now the metaverse is the world which we hope grows out of Fortnite at this point, a world where you can play games, you can also go and hang out with your friends, and you can go to concerts, and you can go to the movies. You can do other things like shop. You can live the world similar to Ready Player One, similar to the metaverse discussed in Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. The reason why we're expanding the use of Unreal into all of these other realms of automotive and architecture and film is because when we do have a metaverse, which is on its way, we would love all of these other creative people to be able to bring in their cars, their buildings, their films into our metaverse in a way which is absolutely seamless, and also to allow game makers to have access to all of these other realms for their expression. So you can make a game and hopefully put it into a more linear form to turn it into something which is a film or a series. These things are all in the near future, not the far future. They're all achievable today, but they'll all be easier in the next generation. So that's my presentation finished. I will now take questions. Where do I get my questions from? Do I go to the question field here?
I've got your
loading questions.
Don't worry.
Dan, do you want to field the questions?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. That was genuinely interesting, just seeing the developments that are coming with Unreal 5 and
It's
the
hard to stay
amazing
up with them.
things.
Honestly, the things that we have at the moment, the water and the atmospheres are stunning. If you haven't played with them, play with them. We also have more procedural landscape generation, which means that you can actually make really, really brilliant, non-destructive terrains. And then you can put in your water, and then you can put in your atmospheres and your clouds. The clouds are beautiful. So these are the things I've been playing with and I love working with. There's so much more coming. MetaHumans is one of the things which I think is going to change a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. So understandably, we've got quite a lot of questions.
That's okay. I left enough time for them, I hope. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we should have enough time to get through quite a lot of them. Elliot asks, what resources would you recommend to get started developing in Unreal with C++? I found plenty on Blueprints, but have really struggled with finding documentation and resources on how to actually get code working in Unreal.
I have exactly the right thing. 1 second, I'll see if I can find it for you now. We have what we refer to as instructor guides, and let me just see if I can find this one. One of our instructor guides is actually managing large code bases with the Unreal Engine. So I'm going to actually go here, and I'm just going to share up my screen for a second again. So sharing my screen again. I'll show you how to get here. So share my screen. So if you go to the, okay, yep, here we go. Is that sharing? Share. So if you go to the Unreal Engine and go to Learning and Support and go to Education, and under Education, you want to look at the educator side, unfortunately. You may think I'm a student, but we've put this in this section here. So under Educators, go to Instructor Guides and go to Get Guides. And down here, you'll see Navigating Large Code Bases. Navigating Large Code Bases, set of open source lectures, assignments, project files, offered free for all educators. They help to guide students from creating simple materials and blueprints in the editor all the way to implementing their own shader code directly in Unreal Engine using C++ and HLSL. So this is one of the best ways I know of to get people started with Unreal Engine in C++. The reason being is, yes, Unreal Engine is a very, very large code base, and it can be quite difficult for people to think, where do I get started? This is exactly what this course is there for. And yes, you can access it. You don't need to be an educator to get your hands on it. You can just log in and get access to that, and that should help a lot.
We also have a few other questions along the lines of, how do I get started on Unreal? I'm presuming
download Unreal. Download Unreal. Unreal Engine is free for everybody. It's free to download. It's free for people to develop games on, and you don't have to pay any royalties on it until you reach, I think it's £1 million now, and then you start paying 5% if you're on our just standard download license. So it's free to download. It's free to use, certainly for education. For all other industries, apart from games, it is free no matter what. So it's free to use in film and architecture and in automotive. It's free for all of these. We have lots of online learning materials, and I'll show you some of those again. I'm going to share again. I won't keep sharing, because let me just go to this.
Go for it.
Oh, no. So here we go. So if you go to, again, I'll just go back here. Under Learning and Support, can you see what I've got here? If you go to Get Started, it has Learn Online. So Start Learning Online, if we go to here, we have hundreds of tutorials, video tutorials, all of which you can take either individually or as part of a learning path. We also have, if you go to the Unreal Launcher, which you'll get when you go to Unreal to download, you'll actually find that we have a learning tab there, and we have example files. There's a lot of example files and a lot of free files which are available for everybody.
Sorry.
That's okay.
One thing that has come up quite a lot in general,
yes,
is the quality shift in what UE5 can achieve. And one of the questions we've got is, With such high poly counts, how do artists texture these models inside Substance Painter without dropping massively in frames during the texturing process? Or is this feature exclusively used for photogrammetry?
I honestly haven't experience of using it myself yet because I've been doing so many other things. But trust me, there are ways of doing this. It's a very valid question. I think we will find workflows when we actually get to doing that, and each individual artist will probably develop their own ways of working with it. It's not exclusively for photogrammetry. One of the things that it'll certainly be great for is ZBrush models. And if people here are used to working in ZBrush, you know that you can't actually texture as such. You paint to the vert. So again, that's something which you can bake out those textures, whatever resolution you want. And it's very performant, that way of working. I'm not certain what the workflows will be because I haven't worked through all of them yet, but it's achievable. It'll certainly be great for photogrammetry, but it'll work with your ZBrush models. It'll work with other methods as well. In terms of working with Substance, that's a good question. I'll have to try it myself soon and see how that goes.
I think it's fair to say that with any new engine development, there's going to be changes in workflows and pipelines anyway. And that's
absolutely.
That's just part of the process.
Yeah, it is part of the process. And it'll take a while before these things settle down, and there are accepted workflows because there's still some differences between different engines in terms of the way in which they even use normal maps or displacement maps or different types of mapping. There will be experimentation, and there will be a lot of what we do is we enable people with our tool set, and then they find different ways of using tools. It's also, you know, really exciting for us to see how people use a tool that we thought was going to do one thing to do something totally different, and how they actually approach it with different workflows. It's all part of the rich tapestry which is game development.
We've got a question from Renato do you recommend new game devs or slightly experienced devs to start with learning blueprinting or C++?
Okay, so if you're a programmer, then I think it's going to be C++ is going to be your friend. If you're not a programmer, I don't think anybody who's a non-programmer is going to approach C++. Even for programmers, using Blueprint is really, really valuable because you can get results very quickly. You can actually prototype what you need to have working, and then if you need to have more performance, then go to C++ to actually do that. But people have built and released entire games which are Blueprint based. C++ is always going to be more performant and is always going to be in demand in the industry. But if you're an artist with a little bit of technical ability, or if you're a designer, I think Blueprint is absolutely for you. If you're a programmer, it's going to be an easy way for you to get things started and say, is this kind of what you're looking for? And then if you want to, you can write that in C++.
There's quite a few other questions around workflow. I think these are probably going to have very similar answers, but will there be much relearning in the transition from 4 to 5, or will new features naturally stack on top of knowledge?
I think it's going to be more stacking on top of knowledge. Yeah. The changes are not as significant as they have been in previous version releases. So from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4 have been quite significant. This is, we have already built an awful lot of the elements which are going to be part of it. So the Niagara, the chaos, the, even in terms of our landscape generation, a lot of these things will be familiar to you. There is not a change like we have had previously. It will be something you will see new features and you will be implementing new features, but it's not going to be something which will be an alien landscape to you.
Answer that one. So this is something that working through grads in games comes up quite a few times, of people trying to find external kind of certification for stuff. Are there any professional certifications you would recommend specifically for Unreal Engine?
We have a badging system, not a professional certification. We have a badging system for completing the Unreal online learning tutorials. That's the only real certification which we have. The other alternative, if you want to become an instructor, then we certify instructors. So there's Unreal certified instructors, but we don't actually certify people because it's not really it's not our business to say that you can use our tool. What says more than anything else is show me something you've made in it. Being able to use the tool is one thing. It's like being able to use a typewriter. I can use a typewriter, but can I write a novel? It's more important when you're going for a role, whether you're, but you can make the game, whether you can make the animation, whether you can do that thing, rather than that you know how to use the engine. We give a certain amount of the micro credentials for having watched the videos and done the exercises and understood and answered quizzes, because we do have a certain amount of testing with the online learning. But it's not as compelling as showing me that you've made a game.
So this is quite an interesting one. What should character artists interested in realistic characters be doing to prepare for MetaHuman's release to make sure that they're not just replaced?
They won't be replaced. I mean, even with realistic humans, today, if you're working with realistic humans, if you're working with actual human beings, the majority of workflows are around photogrammetry. If you're dealing with people that don't exist, a certain amount of workflows can actually be approached using metahumans. But again, there are lots of roles for people who are making characters which are not realistic characters. MetaHuman is specifically designed for the kind of realism, but not necessarily real people. If you want real people, then you actually scan real people. If you want realistic people, then you use MetaHuman Creator. If you want non-realistic, or people that are in a non-realistic style, or for instance aliens, then we're going to need character modelers. And another thing to remember is MetaHuman is not just the modeling aspect, it's the rigging and animation of it also. It's very, very important. You will see that in the videos which were released, the motion is incredibly realistic. It's quite straightforward for an awful lot of character modelers to actually make a decent sculpt, and I can make a reasonable, sculpture of a well-referenced character. Trying to get that to move in the way the character does, that's much harder. So we have the rigging tools and we have the animation tools built in as part of this whole system of MetaHumans. So don't be afraid. What it will do is it will make your job easier and better, and possibly give you more interesting things to do.
I've got a couple of slightly more abstract ones. This one's probably more diving into your background a bit more. What do you think is a good dissertation a computer science student could do?
I'm not certain on that one. My background was I studied architecture, then I went and studied animation, then I worked in the games industry, then I worked in education, then I worked in film, and now I'm back working for Epic. A good dissertation, find a topic which you find compelling and interesting. I think, you will know what interests you most and find a section of it which is underserved. This is kind of what I've done in my career as well, because I have been interested in lots of things. I'm curious. And I thought, well, what can curious people do? And to an extent, that's education. I get to learn things and tell other people about them, which is fantastic. So I found the thing that was underserved. There weren't that many people interested in doing education at a high level for the realms in which I was working in. So what is it that most interests you? And what parts of that are least served? And that kind of niche is always going to be interesting to other people. Answer a question which few people have answered in the past and try and find a different answer to it.
Again, probably coming back to workflow stuff. I'm really interested in working with UE, but as someone who is used to developing games with 2D art, the idea of 3D animation 3D animation. Getting very confused by my voice going back to my ear. The idea of 3D animation rigging is quite daunting. How do UE4 and the upcoming changes in UE5 make this a pleasant learning experience and/or provide training wheel functionality for this?
Okay, well, 3D animation is quite a different thing from 2D animation. It's going to be something which you'll take time to actually to learn. Posing and animating in 3D is very, very different from 2D animation. 2D game making and 3D game making are quite different, but we can give you all the assets. You have Unreal now have Quixel tools, and you have all, I think it's 14,000 assets which you can use, everything from rocks through to household objects and fruit and vegetables and entire buildings which you can build modularly. So we have a lot of these things available for you to work with. But some people prefer working in the 2D realm, and you may find it's not for you. We make it as simple as possible. We provide assets, we provide training, we provide example files. The only thing to do then is to dive in. And remember, it will take time. Don't expect you can learn these things in a day, a week, or a month. You can learn a simple thing in a day. You can learn how to put quite a few simple things together into a game in a month. And in a year or two, you'll start having a full understanding of how systems work. Be generous with yourself in allowing yourself the time. Frustration is a very simple thing to actually put you off. An example of this would be when I started to learn ZBrush back in the day. The first 3 times I tried to learn ZBrush, I rage quit because this is crazy and this interface is terrible. The 4th time I started, I actually found somebody who could help me with it. So sometimes what's really going to help you is to find a mentor or a teacher who'll be able to get you past those moments where you get stuck. So a real person. And the community of Unreal developers is very generous and will jump in and help wherever possible. So I think that's going to help as well. Give yourself time, find a mentor, and you eat an elephant one bite at a time. That's for the non-vegetarians, or you eat a lot of vegetables one bite at a time for those who are.
I was going to end on the awkward metaverse ethics question, but a late question came in that's excellent. You've mentioned being in different industries. How easy or hard would you say switching between industries, such as between games and film, is for someone, particularly if they do animation, for example?
It's reasonably easy, but you need, if you're changing industries, to actually demonstrate that you can fit in that new industry. An example would be if you are changing from games animation into film animation, have some examples of things you've done as personal projects that show you can do it. Include in your portfolio the work that you've done in games, but say, okay, so here are 3 examples of, if you're, say, going for a job at a feature animation, so Pixar type work. Say, here's 3 examples of work that I think would be suitable for this, and here's my background portfolio of other work. They are very different things. For feature animation, posing is more important, and you can actually have a pose based on the camera. In real time, you have to have a pose that will work from every view, and you work on poses and you work on short clips of animation which can blend together. So demonstrating you've actually done the thing will actually make it much easier for you to move. Eventually, if you move backwards and forwards between them enough, people will say, well, yes, we can see that the skills are, you cross everything. And I know people who've started off in games, gone to film, from film back to games, and back again. As art directors, some of the skills are really transferable because it's having a great eye. In some cases, in terms of modeling, again, the skills are becoming much more aligned because we're higher polygon counts and the workflows with physically based rendering more compliant. With animation, again, there are differences, but show you can do the job. So it could even be just 1 or 2 pieces that will show you can do it. And if your passion leads you there, people will actually pick you up on it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mark. It was a really great talk and a lot of in-depth answers there at the end. So thank you very much for
Absolutely
your
welcome.
time.
It is a pleasure to be able to do this. And my final advice to everybody is keep on following your passion. And even though you may need to do other things in the meantime, keep on knocking on doors and asking for that role. The worst thing you can ever do is give up the day before you got your lucky break. So
Well,
keep on trying.
thank you very much.
Thank you. A pleasure.
And everyone in the chat is saying thank you as well.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Speak to you all again soon, I hope. And thanks for everybody for having me here today. And I hope that you're all very successful. I want to play your games. That's the thing. That's why we do this. That's why we educate people. We want to play your games and watch your films.
Yeah.